It's approximately 9 p.m. on the dot, Tuesday, 9th of October. A very good evening to you. And as always, we are glad that you chose to keep us company tonight. I am Ondiro Ganga, ready to bring you up to speed with all the news making headlines across the globe. And as you know, we're all about business. Here's a glance of all the news creating waves in the business world. Second annual Customer Experience Management Africa. The customer is evolving, but are you? National Climate Governance Conference 2018. Climate change is emptying your pockets.
Tax of $2.5 million come to us, no security.
Business opportunities in the Big Four agenda. Are you positioned to reap big? The second annual Customer Experience Management in Africa conference commenced today at the Radisson Blu Hotel in Upper Hill area, Nairobi. The conference brought together customer service executives from different organizations across the continent to deliberate on how to improve the customer experience. Take a look. Among the key speakers at the event was Chris Diaz, Group Director, Bidco Group. Among the key issues that came up from the audience during the sessions was customer expectation versus the reality on the ground. To this, Chris said there are various ways to build a bridge between the expectations and the quality of service the business will offer.
It's all based on customer innovation, and this is where all corporates and all service providers today are changing in a dynamic manner in terms of automation and technology, using artificial intelligence, IoT, and other automation tools to ensure they scale up in terms of giving excellence on customer care. And these gaps are being closed by measuring. First, you have to have a system and processes using technology, and then you connect these to measuring your customer satisfaction and ensuring that your entire team and your entire corporate is focused on culture that is giving personalized and specialized services to your consumers.
Time when we're not speaking at conferences.
Further to this, Chris noted that it is essential for businesses to find a way of bridging the gap between customer expectation and the quality of engagement delivered if the business would like to keep the customers coming over and over again.
Important because today the customer experience drives the next generation of market leaders and brand leaders in the world, and it is critical today that consumers get excellence in customer experience so that they can build loyalty and come back to your companies and your brands, so that you are able to increase your market share, increase your revenue, and grow your businesses into new markets using excellence in customer care.
We have a lot of consumer data, and how do we exchange it?
The idea of streamlining customer experience looks rosy on paper and sounds like the obvious thing to do. However, for any business to be able to offer the ultimate customer experience, it needs to select the right tools.
Well, some of the best tools that you need to do now is to scale up in terms of the demand, especially the Africa market has over 1 billion people, and this will require a lot of goods and services that are provided using smartphones, even feature phones. You're able to use the internet and the online business, the e-commerce, to grow the businesses. So you are able to use different tools, and you can partner with IBM, you can partner with SAP, you can partner with Oracle. They give you cloud solutions which are able to integrate your loyalty programs, your customer experience programs, your sales programs, and also your marketing, so that you're able to do demand creation using automotive tools.
The customer might want them packaged differently. They might not.
With customers, the ideal experience ends today, given that tomorrow they evolve and have a different need, taste, or preference. To this end, Naina Desai, Coca-Cola's Southern and East Africa Director of Customer and Commercial Leadership, says businesses need to maximize own data to provide customized services to their customers.
I think, again, Chris alluded to data and the power of data to start to create customized experiences. People like Uber, I know we have a speaker from Uber later today that will talk about how they took data and turned it into a very, very significant business model. Data is also important in terms of loyalty, understanding and creating what we call mass personalization, being able to speak to your consumers one at a time, but doing it at scale. So that's another trend that is contributing to the shifts. And finally, an area that's close to my heart and probably Chris as well, is the cost of doing business on the back end, manufacturing, supply chain. How do we deploy technology in those parts of our business, warehousing, logistics, etc., to try and take as much cost out, to try and use automation as much as possible, to reduce the cost to serve to your consumers, but at the same time drive margins through customized propositions.
Well, as the popular saying goes, customer is king. As Customer Experience Management Africa Conference sets out to equip businesses with tools and tips on how to offer ideal customer experience, we hope the knowledge will translate in various businesses represented, and with it, the revenue that comes with a happy, satisfied customer. Relevant stakeholders in the environment sector across the country are calling upon both the government and Kenyans in general to take into serious consideration climate change and the impact it has had and continues to have on the Kenyan economy, and in turn take swift action to curtail its further progression. This was said at the National Climate Governance Conference, a CCDA pre-event at the Safari Park Hotel, Nairobi.
Yeah, we want to see action. We want to see.
Speaking at the event, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Environment and Forestry, Mohammed Almi, could not insist enough that gone are the days when climate change was a foreign idea, as its ghost has crept into the country and the economy has taken its fair share of hits as a result.
Kenya, like other developing countries, is most vulnerable to the adverse impact of climate change due to high dependence to climate-sensitive agriculture. Increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events like droughts and floods have hit many regions across the country, across Kenya, and now poses a challenge to the attainment of our Vision 2030 development agenda. The poor, women and children in the various areas are most affected due to their low adaptive capacity. These threats, however, present some opportunities towards innovative and green investments that will be shared during today's discussions.
The CAS further went on to urge Kenyans to stand up and help fight impunity and corruption that has marred the Environment and Forestry Ministry, such as illegal logging, which has enabled climate change to progress to extremely dangerous levels in the country.
For climate change to be actualized, we must stop impunity. We must stop corruption. So I'm asking the civil society in this room and private sector, please come out. Corruption and impunity will not be stopped by a number of prosecutions. There are not enough jails in Kenya, but it will be stopped by enough Kenyans coming out and saying, the good ones who used to shout about corruption, this is the time to come out and say, look, I'm not corrupt and I will not accept. Tell the ones below you, it will not be accepted. For me, that's where the climate change battle will be won. Individual action, and so that the good people come out.
Calls for action did not only stop at the citizenry level. James Murombetsi, officer in charge of the Economic Commission for Africa's African Climate Policy Center, called on both county and national governments to set aside funds to deal with the climate change and emphasized on the county governments to try and access decentralized climate change funds and work in tandem with communities to promote resilient climate-friendly community livelihoods.
One major opportunity which exists is the possibility of accessing decentralized climate finance. Local governments, as we know, are typically closer to communities and are accountable to those communities. If local governments can access decentralized climate finance, they should also be empowered to disburse climate funds for investments in priorities that are chosen with communities in order to support resilient community livelihoods. community prioritized public goods investments can be managed in transparent, accountable, and cost-effective ways. And such investments are also demonstrated to be consistent with public finance policy, complementary to local government existing budgets, and capable of drawing down and managing climate finance from national climate funds and other sources of climate finance.
He further went on to state that the only way for African countries to achieve their national and global goals, climate change must be factored in and dealt with accordingly.
The African Climate Policy Center, through the ClimDev Africa Initiative, a partnership initiative of the Africa Union Commission, the African Development Bank, and the UN Economic Commission for Africa, is already exploring the climate governance prospects for Africa's structural transformation towards achieving the aspirations of Agenda 2063 and the SDGs. We are keenly aware that climate change is now clearly the major risk in the achievement of the ideals of these development frameworks. And we are in the process of continuing to strengthen our relationships with African member states, as well as developing partnerships with local governments, civil society organizations, and the private sector in order to work towards achieving inclusive responses to the climate challenge.
With the pre-conference event done, counties now have a better understanding heading to the main conference on the role of devolved governments in the transition to low-carbon, climate-resilient economic development. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Daisy Wambua.
Welcome back to the most comprehensive, exclusively business news bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. And now turning to matters entrepreneurship. The Institute of Economic Affairs, which is a think tank that provides a platform for informed discussions in order to influence public policy in the country, today held a training session for entrepreneurs under the Youth Economic Dialogue Program. The session sought to discuss business opportunities that are presented by the government's Big Four agenda, centering around accessibility of capital and investor preparedness. Our reporter Daisy Wambua attended the forum and filed the following report.
To a max of $2.5 million come to us, no security.
The event brought together well-known business personalities, young entrepreneurs who are starting out in the entrepreneurial space, as well as players in the financing space. Olive Gashara, a well-known Kenyan entrepreneur, pointed out that for one to be noticed in the entrepreneurship world, they need to have a sustainable business that will have a multiplier effect.
When it comes to the Big Four, there's lots of opportunities. Right? There's a lot of business opportunities, but they will only reach us, the entrepreneur, the solo entrepreneur, the techpreneur, the foodpreneur, if you have a sustainable business, right? So if you look at food, for example, and if you look at being able to provide value in that chain of how food gets from the farm to the fork, the only way people will start paying attention to you is if you're able to create a sustainable business in whatever it is that you choose.
Of loans to entrepreneurial youth.
The Lions Den investor continued to add that investors are looking towards investing in businesses that are scalable as they prove to be the most profitable.
Investors are only looking for businesses that are scalable because scalable businesses are where the returns are. Unfortunately, most of the small enterprises that are run today are kitchen businesses, you know. So even me, I'm like, so now when I come and put money in your kitchen, how does it come back out, right? So get out of the kitchen and look for a business that you can be able to scale. And all you need is that extra hand so that you can get to the next level.
You need to learn how to sell yourself. And
also in attendance was Rina Hicks, the operations director at Faida Investment Bank, a bank that links investors with opportunities, and stated that investors were ready to invest, but the problem is getting hold of the entrepreneurs who have actualized the business ideas that are in line with the Big Four agenda.
It's an idea that's solving a problem, and I think if it's an idea within the Big Four, it's awesome because there's priority there from government, and they generally want to help enterprises that are in that space. So what's the problem you're solving is a key question. And is it a problem that exists? Have you clarified that people actually have that problem, or is it just in your thought and you think that people have a problem?
They contributed
Speaking to Odipo Jaffas from Jureda Group Limited, he highlighted the various business opportunities that are available for the youth in the Big Four agenda by the government, and he continued to emphasize on the need for the youth to strategically position themselves in an effort to seize them and benefit from them.
The entire chain of the Big Four, in every aspect of it, actually has opportunities for the youth. But it's just a matter of the youth seeing how they can be able to fix themselves in a particular sector. I would vouch for manufacturing, because at the end of the day, manufacturing is a very wide industry, and it can cover quite a number of aspects, and it can cover more or less all the other industries in one way or the other. So for me, it's not really that are the Big Four skewed towards the youth. It's a matter of the youth, where can they fit in the Big Four with the ideas that they actually have.
Their wisdom in good time, so that
He continued to note that the investors were ready and that the youth ought to be investor ready so that they can be involved in businesses that not only bring money but those that can expand in a proportional and profitable way so that investors can see their return on investment.
The aspect of being investor ready needs to start from cultivating the mind of the young people to think way beyond just making money and think of businesses that can be able to scale. To think more of purpose and passion and not just profit. So when it comes to investors, honestly speaking, I think we have an excess. We just don't have ideas that these people can be able to put their money into.
we'll have an opportunity for networking. Please make sure.
It doesn't matter how young or old you may be. Opportunities abound in the four sectors that form the Big Four agenda by the government, but it is up to you, the entrepreneur, to identify them and position yourself attractively for investors to put money behind your idea. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Daisy Wambua.
Let's take a look at how the markets performed today. Here is a summary. That is a run-through of how the markets performed, but for more in-depth analysis of the same, tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for my next big bet with Rachel Derutu and Karanja Daniel. Now let's see how the weather looks like, and here is the report. That was it from our business news desk tonight, but do make sure to tune in at 9 p.m. tomorrow for a fresh serving of news making headlines in the business world. Have a good night and do enjoy your Moi Day.